Ladies and gentlemen, if you're seeing this, you're privileged because today is another special day. We have You pretty much have to see the first part of the interview to pretty much, enjoy this the right way. But today we have the return of Dr. Francois Scarborough Clemmons to celebrate with us Black History Month. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, allow me to welcome the diva, Officer Clemmons. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, 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 Aubrey.
How are you doing today?
I am fine. Amen.
Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, we are so privileged today, Francois, to have you again.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited. I have my water. I have my telephone over there and the notes and everything. Everything is in place.
Amazing, amazing. I just want to say, this time around, I want to make sure that we talk about a couple of points that we barely touched on last time. And starting first with ladies and gentlemen, let me just make sure I contextualize this and say we are in the presence of somebody who broke barriers, somebody who had a recurring role on television. Officer Clemmons is the character he played, and guess what? Officer Clemmons is right here with us. We're celebrating his Black story. We're celebrating your Black story. We're celebrating our history together and just saying, it's always important to remember where we come from, to remember that we're standing on the shoulders of so many people who sacrificed time and their lives to be able to give us the opportunities that we have today. And Francois, I'm so happy to have your voice and your perspective and your story. And I just want to actually just really quickly say, Francois, we did not talk about your work in the Harlem Spiritual Ensemble. Please, Francois, let's just give us a little picture of where were you in your life when you were starting this chapter of your life?
Well, I was kind of young, 26, 27, maybe I was 30. But the thing is, I discovered that I love singing American Negro spirituals. And that was the one thing that went click, that told me something unusual and unique was happening when I sang spirituals. And I had all kinds of people when I lived in Manhattan. I belong to the Metropolitan Opera Studio. It's a group of young singers preparing for the big times. And they thought I was going to be one of them. So I had won the competition. I was in New York, and this man asked me to sing at a concert. And I thought he was going to ask me to sing an Italian aria, a French aria, a German, something that I had learned in academia. And he said, no, I'd like for you to sing a spiritual. And I said, what? He said, yes, you have such a unique gift for singing these songs that we would be honored if you would sing a song. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, Lord, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Now I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home, yeah. A big band of angels coming after me, coming for to carry me home. So that was the first thing I sang for him. And I sang it in his office, just like I sang it for you. He said, "Oh, that's so wonderful. Thank you so much." So that was my introduction to the rest of them. And when we did the concert, people loved the spirituals. I thought they would like it. They would thought it was nice. It was like I almost got a standing ovation singing when I sang another spiritual, and I sang three. And I thought my heart wouldn't stop racing because they were so kind to me after that. I had a lot of people who encouraged me to sing, but mostly to sing spirituals. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm still singing. I'll soon be 78 years old. And this is the greatest joy in my life, to sing spirituals. So people told me they liked what I was doing. So I said, come on over and let's put a group together. And these were mostly people in their 30s and one or two in their 40s. And they came to my house and we started singing. And then I wasn't the director, but I was the one who loved it and brought people together. And they said to me after a couple sessions, "You're the director, you're the founder. Tell us what you want us to do." I said, "What?" They said, "Yeah, we want you to direct us so that we can sing better the songs that we're doing." So I said, "Oh, okay." It's like I didn't have any choice. So I sang, I taught them how to sing soprano, alto, tenor, bass, and listen to one another. It's very, very important. Very important to listen. So they listened, and we began to form a group, a sense, what you would call a group sound. And so they said, why don't we try to get a few jobs at the churches in Harlem, churches in Brooklyn, and I knew a couple other churches. So I said, okay. Well, I was once again very encouraged. I got in touch with those musical directors. They said, yeah, bring your group. We'd love to hear you. Now, this is the hard part. You got about 8 or 9 or 10 people who are semi-professional. They do other jobs, earn a living. Well, they said, we can't live on $150 for an engagement each. I thought, oh, Lord, what am I going to do? I love this. I want us to stay together. So I made a sacrifice. I never regret. I had money saved for retirement. I went and got some of that money and I wrote out checks for each one of them. I said, okay, they'll pay us $150 each. I will also pay you $150. Well, it changed. Because then they became committed. They could pay their rent if they have to travel.
Yeah.
I thought that was very, very important. But I was using up my retirement money.
Yeah. I mean,
how long can I do this? But the truth is, we kept getting more and more engagements. And as we got more and more engagements, I was able to save some. And then I was able to get them to be paid more. They loved it. And they helped. That was the other thing. After a while, they helped find jobs, people who wanted to hear us. So they got jobs, and we continued to grow. And I thought we were just, we got a manager, and the agent booked us in American colleges. I mean, the best all over. So I said to her, I want to sing in Europe. Oh, she said, I'm going to sing you. Don't you worry. So sure enough, she called me up, said, I have an engagement for you to sing in Italy. Oh, my heart. So the ensemble loved it. We got the passport and the visa stuff straightened out. And off we went to Milan. And once we got to Milan, the Italians went crazy over us. They really did. They said wonderful things. So much so, they extended our engagement. We were only supposed to be there for like 4 concerts or something. And they said, oh, no, you can't go home. We're sure that we can book you if you can stay at this place, and this place, this. And the thing was, the money was fabulous. Everybody said, well, we can
Yeah.
stay another week. We can stay another 2 weeks. So that's sort of how we got to touring and did more jobs that we hadn't planned. But the group was wonderful, and they were full of enthusiasm and maturity. The voices were beautiful. I really, really enjoyed the Harlem Spiritual Ensemble.
Amazing, Francois. I just want to say big shout out to you, Liam. Liam says, "Good afternoon,
Good
gentlemen."
afternoon, Leon. How nice.
Liam. I had to.
Lord help us. Help us, Father.
you. So,
Help your servant.
two questions. Two questions. What was your favorite, or what is your favorite Negro spiritual to sing? And please just bless us with it with a little bit. I mean, you already sang "Sweet
Swing
Swing
Low,
Low."
Sweet Chariot. Now,
Yes, yes.
this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, yeah, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, Lord, I'm gonna let it shine. Well, everywhere I go, Lord, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, Lord, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, yeah. Let it shine, let it shine.
Amazing. It's
That was
shining.
my favorite song.
It's so beautiful, beautiful, Francois. Thank you for sharing that. Look at the musical notes. Thank you, Liam.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Liam.
Also, Robert, all the way in New York City. Shout out to you, Robert. Thank you for tuning in. We're hanging out, spending a Friday with Francois Clemmons, the man who played Officer Clemmons in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, the man who broke barriers. Yo, Francois, let's talk about this real quick. So, I have to ask you. Um, you identify you are gay, right?
Yes, yes.
How when did you know you were gay?
Well, okay. First of all, I knew I was gay when I was pretty young, and all of my 8, 9, 10 years old, all my buddies were trying to kiss the girls and reach up under their skirts. And I wasn't interested in that. Not at all. And I'd watch them and I thought it was silly. Why? Because I was spending a lot of time with my buddies and it was very satisfying inside. So I said, I don't have to change. I like being with Charles or with Selden or with Robert or whomever. And they said, but we can sing together and we can be pals, but you want to save the kisses for the girls. And I said, no, I don't want to save the kisses for the girls. So the guy said, sorry, you cannot kiss me that way. Stop. So
Yeah.
I began to learn that I was gay and what I wanted to express was very different. And the church, I asked my minister, and he said, no, 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 no. You cannot be gay and be a Christian. And I thought, oh my God. And so for a while, I was trying to kill it and get rid of it. And I prayed. I asked God to get rid of my gayness. And I have to tell you, every time I asked God to get rid of my gayness, something would come over me. And it allowed me to open up and be friendly with people, even if they were not gay back to me. And I made some very, very close friends Later on, when I spoke to my friends and I said, you know, I had a crush on you. And they said, yeah, I did. I didn't feel the same way, but I liked you so much. I wanted to be friends. So I began to understand the incredible value of friendship, having
Mm.
people care about you and want you to be happy and have a good life. Well, that went on until I went to college and I did some serious exploration in college. I had a lot of fun. I didn't solve all my problems or issues, but I began to delve into what it meant to be a gay person. Then when I went to graduate school, I continued. But
Mm.
Fred Rogers said to me, Francois, I had sung at church, so he heard me. And he said, I want you to come and be on my show. Then he said, we have a role for you. Would you be a police officer? That was the first thing. I said, no, I don't want to be a police officer. I want to be like a school principal or an architect or a manager of a big building or business or something. And he said, no, I want you to be a helper. A helper? He said, yes. When little children get lost or if they uh, something happens, they get hurt, they fall. If you're around, you can help them get up. Children need helpers. And also, he said, it will begin to change the image and the reputation of police. Because I had this idea that police were very, very cruel and harsh, and they were
Yeah.
hurtful instead of helpers. So he said, you can do that, but we heard you were at a gay bar. And he said, you can't go back to that gay bar. I said, why not? Who saw me? He would never tell me who ratted on me and who told him. But you know, the thing was, that meant that person was gay. Also, why would they do that to behind my back?
They were also at the bar.
Oh, I felt terrible. I tried. Fred took that name to his grave. He never told me who it was. So I went into the closet. It was a long story. I tried to get married. That did not work. And anybody who wants to know the rest of the details, they can read
Yes.
Officer Clemmons. It's a very well written book, if I have to say so myself. So I went into the closet, which meant I denied my homosexuality. It was pretty much a painful period of my life.
I mean, that
Excuse me.
everything that was
Until,
going on. Go ahead.
until I met Maya Angelou down in Nashville, Tennessee, at Fisk University.
You met Maya?
Oh, are you kidding? She was wonderful to me. She said, "Come over here, boy." I sang a special symposium they were having on Black writers, and this agent in New York signed me up to sing for them. So my pianist and I, we went down to Fisk University, and we sang. And Maya, after I finished singing, they were very kind. She said, "Come over here, boy." I said, "Yes, ma'am." And so I came over. She said, "Sit down here next to me." So I sat down next to Maya Angelou. She said, "We really love what you're doing. You are sharing the legacy of Fred Rogers all over the country. And little children need to know that people care about them, that people love them, that they will be fed and clothed and taken care of. And the emotions that Mr. Rogers is talking about is there's no color. It's not black or Asian or white. It's every child." She said, and that's what we want you to continue to do. Somebody, a Black person, needs to be on that program and needs to be seen regularly. Not only, of course, for the Black children, but it meant a lot for white kids to see a Black man and a white man together as friends, as equals. Now, you see back there, there's a picture on the wall, which I treasure because when Dr. Martin Luther King got assassinated, oh man, it broke my heart. It just tore me apart. And I went to Fred and we chatted. We talked about it. I said, "Fred, you're an important businessman. people respect you. Can't you do something about it? They were putting chemicals and powder in swimming pools. They didn't want black kids also to go to those urban centers in Nashville, uh, 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 Atlanta, Birmingham, Memphis. No black. These were urban centers where black people live, and they pay taxes. And it was a local pool, but they didn't want them. So Fred Rogers said, "I'll write a script for you, Francois." I said, "A script?" He said, "Yes. I think I know how to address this." Well, I got the script and I said, "There's nothing here. What is he talking about?"
Yeah.
So he asked me to come to the studio, and I went, and he had a song for me. And I sang the song. He said, "Come on over. It's a hot day.
Oh, which song? Which
Let's
song?
yeah, well, let's sit down and relax."
Right.
And he said, "Why don't you put your feet in the water with me? Because it's hot. It's very relaxing if you do that, Officer Clemmons." So I said, "Okay, I think I will." So I had these police boots on. So I had to take my boots off. And and then I put one foot in, I put the other foot in. Oh, I put a foot in the water, and it changed the whole way people were looking at racism. And the fact that a black man and a white man were very close friends. And it was made even more powerful. I didn't know it at the time, but I learned. Because when we finished, I sang a song, and then he said, I said, "I don't have a towel, Fred." And he said, "Use mine." What? Nobody shares towels like that.
No,
Can
I
you
wouldn't have
imagine?
said towel was my blood brother.
Oh man, I was shocked, even though I had done a little bit of the scene, I had read about it, but the idea of using his towel was a big shock. Now, so not only did I use it, he started helping me dry my feet, and I was young enough; I didn't need help.
Yeah,
But I recognized later on the symbolism. It's a
symbol.
very powerful symbolism, which had to do with Jesus in the upper room with his disciples. And he said to them, "Let me wash your feet." And they said, "Oh, no, no, no. Our feet stink. They're terrible. We're out in the desert walking and around fishermen in the dock. And our feet, no, you shouldn't." He said, "If I cannot wash your feet, you cannot be my servant, my disciple." And they said, "What a shocking thing to suggest that he would throw them out." So they said, "Okay." They took off their sandals. He did. And he
Yeah.
washed each one of their feet. It's a very, very humble story. And that story, in my opinion, talks about service, serving the world, serving your neighborhood, serving people. What is it that you can do to make this a better world? And here was the great spiritual leader down on his knees, washing their feet and drying them off. Needless to say, it's a holy moment. There's something extraordinarily powerful by this gesture of service. And I keep that example in my heart all the time, that the greatest among us served us. We should all do the same thing. So sure enough, after we did the scene, boy, he got a lot of letters. He called me, he told me about it. He said, "Wow, I knew it was going to have an impact, but I didn't realize how much of an impact." And the thing was, the church, the Catholics, the uh, Episcopalians, the Lutherans, everybody, Baptists, they called me and said, "Mr. Clemmons, can we come in and interview you?" I said, "Yes." They said, What happened during that scene with Mr. Rogers? What was going on? Do you understand?" I said, "Yes, I understand. Do you understand?" Because I spoke with Fred about that. And he said, it's to tell people they could see color, a dark person and a light person, and the warmth between us, the care. the empathy. I had people, excuse me. I had people tell me that their family was racist until they saw that scene, that very, very simple scene. And they said, if Mr. Rogers is not prejudiced, neither can I be prejudiced. And I know that racism took a step back, 2 or 3, after people saw that. Time and again, they said, let's show this scene. Mr. Clemmons, do you understand the influence and the impact that that scene has had, all not just in America, Switzerland, Germany, the Philippines, South Korea, wherever Americans had big army barracks and stations, those people watched television, were able to get Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And so when I went to Germany, they wrote to the station and said, is that the same Mr. Clemmons who's singing here, who's on Mr. Rogers? And that happened in South Korea, and it happened in everywhere I went to sing. A lot of people would come, call the station and say, I knew him at Oberlin, or I knew him at Carnegie Mellon. And they would come in and we would have a wonderful reunion. And then they'd get around, they would say, that scene that you did with Mr. Rogers, oh man, what an impact. So that whenever we are planning some symposium or groups together, at times, whatever, they said, let's show this film first. Can you imagine how humbling it was for Fred Rogers to treat me that way, and for people to understand what a blessing.
What a blessing. Thank you for sharing your story, says Brooke, tuned in all the way from DC. Shout out to you, Brooke.
Hi,
Yeah.
Brooke.
Wow. Did you know though? Like, I mean, this was obviously, you knew you were gonna take a risk. You're taking a risk by doing this scene, right? But
Yeah, I knew, because I knew there was still separation of Black people and white people. And there were lots of people who were racist in this country. Just look at how certain presidential candidates carry themselves and who they sit down and have dinner with. Imagine sitting down with a racist, an avowed racist. Well, Fred Rogers was not a racist, and he thought it was wrong. And so he said, sit down here with me, Francois. Let the world see how much I love you, how much I care. And I carry that in my heart. It meant so much to me that he told me he loved me. And that he said, I'm going to stick by you. Don't you worry. Now, the only reason I don't want you to be outly gay is our sponsors. In those days, Heinz and Heinz, Kellogg, cereals, Johnson and Johnson, etc. Those were the companies that sponsored Mr. Rogers. And he said, I don't think they will continue to support my show if I have an openly gay person. And he said, I'm so sorry, Francois, but you really basically need to keep that to yourself. And of course, I did for about 10 years. And then I was in New York one day and I said, I have been loyal. I have stood by the door. I have contributed when other people would have scattered in 18 different directions. I said, no, it's important that I be here. So I sacrificed. And I said, you cannot go there. You cannot do this. You can't have a certain lifestyle. Because all you would need is one scandal. And Mr. Rogers, they would be asking him questions. And they would feel, are you gay? They'd ask him, or do you condone, Mr. Clemmons, stuff that has nothing to do with the issues that a 3-year-old kid or 4-year-old kid is dealing with. And that's what he was dealing with. So when he said, please don't come out, I looked upon it as the universe telling me my sacrifice. I too am serving. And if I didn't have a certain kind of personality, I couldn't have done it. But I spent a lot of time in meditation and prayer with God. I've written a book. I'm writing another one dealing with why people pray so much. and there's a divine essence that comes into my life. I don't think I'd be like this if I hadn't had that experience. That pain and that suffer, not being able to relate to people. Touching is so important, and not only touching, but sitting next to your buddies and holding your arm around that person that you care about. I said, no, I can't do that, because somebody will take a picture and say this and that about Officer Clemmons. So I really denied several times. I denied men who were very, very honorable, reputable, but I said, I can't be involved with you. Yeah. I have to tell you, that was a huge sacrifice. And the only way I got through that was being quiet and going into prayer. And God gave me the grace. That's the word for what allowed me to deny myself and still be strong. I was under God's grace. Because let me tell you, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Lord, I had to pray that way several times. Please, oh Lord, the temptation is great, and I'm just a person. I'm weak. Help. Help me. I don't know what to do. Lord, and the Spirit says, be quiet, be still, and know me. I will help you. I will guide you. You do not have to do anything, because nobody is going to hurt you or deny you, because I am sitting with you through this experience. And I began to understand that my guides, my angels, my protectors, the lionesses, they were all with me when I meditated and when I prayed. And I asked God for guidance and for strength and for grace, so that I could feel good about my life. And the way I found one way that I could contribute is to sing. I could always sing a song. And I was very grateful having people from everywhere, and I mean all over Europe, all over America, would come backstage. Oh, that was so beautiful. Because people use a lot of amplification now, and they don't sing a cappella very much. And I'm with you, and I've been singing a cappella with you. So it's a certain style that I also cultivated so that I could sing without an accompanist.
Let's go back to earlier on when you talked about a song that you sang for Fred Rogers. So would you please mind sharing that with us?
Well, there are many ways to say I love you. There are many ways to say I care about you. Many ways to say I love you. Now there's the singing way to say I love you. There's the singing something special that someone would like to hear. The singing way, the singing way, the singing way to say I love you. Cleaning up your room can say I love you. And making special pictures for the holidays and making plays. There are many ways to say I love you. There are many ways to say I care about you. Many ways, many ways, many ways to say I love you.
My Lord!
So, God bless me that he wrote that song for me. He actually wrote it for me. And when I sang it, wow, Fred, He was touched also. And, I'm saying this to you very honestly. This man loved my voice, loved my singing, or I wouldn't have been there. He could have found some other people to come in and to do some of the stuff that I did where I didn't sing. But I was dedicated to that program. I was loyal. I felt that was where I was supposed to be. Those people, Betty Aberlin, Mr. McFeely, Joe Negri, Johnny Costa, they were my family. And I used to spend holiday time with Fred Rogers. And he had a big house on Hastings Street. And this is a long time ago now, because he's been dead. He was 74 years old. He died like in 2001. And he said, come to my house. You're going to stay with me a couple of days. I said, oh, okay. So I came to his house. I went upstairs on the third floor, and there was 1, 2, 3, at least 4 excellent, beautiful bedrooms. I thought, oh, I'm going to be staying with Fred Rogers. Let me tell you, some of the people at WQED, the station where he filmed, they were jealous that I was so close to him. He treated me like family, and he became my surrogate father. He was the first man, period, to tell me, I love you. I love you just the way you are, Francois. And you are special to me. And you make every day a beautiful day. You know why and how? Just by being yourself. Well, that was a shock for me, for someone to say, I love you just for being who you are. You see, I had a terrible time, which I talk about in the book, in my youth with my parents and not being close to my father. And worse, my stepfather abused me and beat me. And I went and lived with one of my girlfriends. Bless Elaine. She's dead now, but Elaine said, come to our house. And so even then, I felt a certain deep lack, loss, a big empty. And that emptiness was filled when Fred Rogers said, I love you, Francois. I'll be with you. You can count on me. Now, that's what he told me. And even though he said, you can't come out as gay, but you can be gay with us. This is your family. And you just don't want it in the newspapers. You don't want it on radio. You don't want people taking pictures of you in compromising situations. But we know you're gay, and we do not expect you to be straight. And over a period of time, I finally came out of the closet. But it was like about 1990. So that was 12, 13 years. And I was traveling a great deal singing, and I could just be myself. You see how I am now. I wasn't any different. I just wore more showy stuff. I stopped wearing that uniform. I hung it in the closet and said goodbye.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, Aubrey. People love that character. I was just mystified. Everywhere I went, oh, Officer Clemmons, Officer Clemmons, hello, Officer Clemmons, oh, how are you today? They would sing to me, and I would sing back to them at the airport, in the grocery store, if I went to a furniture or a food store. I'm telling you, people would, are you Officer Clemmons? And they would say, there are many ways to say I love you. I said, you remember that song? I said, yes. It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? And then I have always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you. So let's make the most of this beautiful day. And since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please won't you be my neighbor?
Woo! Oh,
Now,
I'm touched by singing, says Larry.
that's so wonderful. That touches me too. But I want to tell you, can you imagine 2 adult men in a a record store or at a boutique, and all of a sudden we were singing "Won't You Be My Neighbor." It was the silliest, wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you see, I started that program way in the 80s, so it's 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Now they've grown up, and I'm a part of the memories, the positive memories that they carried from their childhood. What a blessing. And I'm serious, I can't go anywhere. I don't want to, but I can't. Sometimes I just stop. You know, one last example. I asked a friend, let's go with me to grocery shopping. And I made a list. And as soon as before I got into the grocery store, oh, Officer Clemmons, you come to visit with us today. And then they came over to me and they started talking. I looked at my friend. I said, can I give you this list and you do the shopping and I'll do the visiting with friends? 10 people, 12 people. Okay, there's a place in the grocery store where you can go sit down. I walked over and I sat down. And it was though I said, okay, y'all come, everybody come. I'm here now. I'm telling you, that grocery store should pay me a sum of money. If you put my name up, say Officer Clemmons is going to be here, more people will show up at that grocery store.
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible, Francois. I just want to just circle back to that story. I mean, to the fact that I feel like the theme, the main message, the main vibe, the main thing for me that Fred Rogers stood for was just, I love you. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. And I just want to normalize just, just saying, I love you to anybody. I love you, Liam. I love you, Brooke. I love you, Larry. Anybody that's tuned in. You know what I mean? Because it's something that we don't say enough,
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and the message of that song, though, is like, it's not really about saying I love you. There are many ways to show.
Everything that you do shows that you love and you care.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed that my soul opens up to strangers. I'm not one of those people who is closed down and say, "Oh no, I won't. Oh, I don't know you. Don't come near me." I'm saying, "Okay." The people who come to me are nice people, and they want to have a positive experience with me. They're not coming for a negative reason. And I bless them. I bless the occasion. I learned from Fred. I used to go out with him to lunch. And while we were eating lunch, people would come over to the table and ask, "Oh, Mr. Rogers, I watch your program. Would you please sign this menu for me or this piece of paper or my notebook?" He was so kind. He said, "Yes, I'd be very happy to." And I was saying, "Fred, your dinner is getting cold, or your lunches. Aren't you going to eat?" He said, "Oh, yeah, don't worry, friends. I'll take care of it." And I sat there very quietly, time and time again. Well, who could have guessed that is? I went to the restaurant the other night. I hadn't been there a long time. And somebody across the room, "It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood." They start saying stuff. They do. And I said, "Yes, it is. It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. We're not fighting that pandemic, and we're able to get out and get some fresh air and be close to one another." That is a blessing, because in order to be warm and be human, we must embrace. We must hold one another. We must feel one another. There's healing. There's health. There's a positivity. Lord have mercy. My great grandmother Laura May, when I was down in Birmingham, Alabama, when my great grandmother hugged me, the sun burst. It was so much wonderful energy. Same thing with my grandfather, who was the one who taught me about Little Buttercup and the Magic Cane, the books that I'm writing, which deal with my life in a fictitious. It's a mythology, but it has a lot of truth in it, of our African history before we came to America. My grandfather was just determined that I understand my people were not always slaves. Don't think of yourself that way, from Little Buttercup. And I said, "Okay, Daddy, okay, Granddaddy." And so one day I was just singing like, "Till that time, Lord, I've been praying. Till that time, Lord, I've been till that time, Lord, I've been praying till the Lord, he done what he said he would. Ooh. And I could go on. But if I sang that song, they said, "What are you singing, boy? Where'd you get that song?" I
Yeah.
said that the Cain sang the song. What do you mean that Cain sang the song? That Cain can't sing. That's your granddaddy. Don't you know that, boy? And I stood there. And while they were looking at me, I thought to myself, he and I have a secret. We know what the Cain can do, and they don't. That was so wonderfully innocent and childish that my granddaddy and I had this, we had the secret. Well, that went on, and unfortunately, my grandfather died. And then when I was in Youngstown, Ohio, one day, somebody was talking to me, and we realized, oh, that was my granddaddy's voice. That was not, uh, a voice from the great beyond. And I began to realize what he had done to me. He had put a sense of selfhood, that I was precious and I was special to him. And I began to hold on to that. That's who my grandfather saw. He was my prime babysitter. And he used to take me down to the creek. And sometimes this came, oh, 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 little boy, you're gonna grow up and become so special to the world. Oh, yeah, hallelujah. Little boy, little buttercup, my baby. Amen.
Amen.
That's what my granddaddy sang to me. Oh, I fell in love. I said, Granddaddy, I'm special to the Cain. He said, yes. The Cain told me to tell you, you're going to grow up to be a wonderful person. So you just keep treating people right and saying your prayers before you go to sleep at night, and you'll see it's going to come true. That song I just sang for you was partially made up and partially what my grandfather used to sing to me. I remember some of the tune. I can't always remember the words.
All the
I have a
words.
feeling now that I'm at this age, he made up a lot of those words. It worked.
That's
It worked.
amazing. That's amazing, Francois. I have to just say it's so incredible. I mean, it feels like it's something that ran in your family genes to
Yeah.
to sing, and be so expressive,
Mhm.
And
My mother sang. She had a beautiful voice. My grandmother, Minnie Green, sang. And my great grandmother, when she was working around the house, I remember she had her socks rolled down and she would
yeah.
sing while she was working. So it's in my genes.
How did they feel about you being gay, Francois?
Well, the truth is, I don't really know because I left Alabama when I was 5 years old. So I was in Youngstown, Ohio, where everybody was saying, don't be gay, don't be gay, don't be gay. But my Aunt Bess lived in Cleveland, Ohio, and she kept inviting me to come to her house with my uncle, and the two of us would have dinner together, and I'd go back to Oberlin. I thought, what a nice person, how wonderful she is. She was my father's aunt, so she was my great aunt. We just called her Aunt Bess. And sure enough, when I started writing Officer Clemmons,
Yes.
I got in touch with Aunt Bess because I had sort of stayed in touch with her, but I knew she was in Cleveland. Because when I sang in Cleveland, she came to my concerts. I did Porgy and Bess there and all kinds of stuff. So she said, Francois, I've always known you were gay. I've been trying to tell you 20 years that we don't care. I thought, what? I wasted a lot of time feeling bad about
Yeah.
something that it was not necessary to feel bad about. My Aunt Bess hugged me and the tears just rolled down. My aunt loves me too. So I began to get that positive human reinforcement. It means a lot, a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I I'm just so happy that you were able to have that connection and that positive reinforcement, because it's not everybody that is gay and they have to confront their family, and
Yes.
it's it's never easy,
Well, my
so
mother did not approve. My mother absolutely said, no son of mine is going to be gay.
yeah.
What? And I was only about 10, 9 years old or something. I was pretty young. But it stuck inside of me that there was something terribly wrong that my mother was not going to love if I acted on it. So you
Mhm.
began to repress. I started repressing who I am and what I feel. I couldn't express it anywhere. So that's when I went away to college and I made a promise to myself to experiment, but I'm never going back to Youngstown. I left Youngstown, Ohio for good because they were so conservative. Church was conservative. The people. You read the book and you see some of the stories I write about even though it's a northern state and a northern city, but there was so much racism in Youngstown, Ohio. Lord have mercy. And I just I didn't want to deal with it anymore. So I said, I'm going to go to Pittsburgh to graduate school and then to New York. And it took me about 12 or 13 years. But then I said, I'm coming out so I can be myself. And it's the
Mhm.
most wonderful thing. It relieves you when you feel you can be yourself. And my Aunt Bess was a big part of that.
Amazing, amazing. I want to actually just one more time on about your book. I'm sure some parts were very fun to write and some parts were not so fun. So can you give us a little, snippet of one portion that you had that you would consider the fun, and then one that's not so fun, you know?
Well, I'll give you the not so fun first so I can have an ending that's fun. But the
Yeah.
not so fun was Fred Rogers used to take me on the road with him. He would do children's concerts in Cleveland, in Cincinnati, in Los Angeles, San Francisco. I saw America traveling with him. So we were out of Cincinnati, and I went out there. They showed me where my costume room was going to be, dressing room. And so I went down. I put on the Officer Clemmons uniform, and I came upstairs, and the orchestra was warming up, and I stood quietly in the wing so that I could hear the songs and stuff they were working on. And the conductor, it was very hard to write about the humiliation. Hey, who are you? What are you doing on my here at my stage? I don't know you. I didn't ask you to be here. Get off of my stage. Go on, get off. I can't tell you how surprised. I was mortified. So I drug my sad self back down to my dressing room and I was going to take off my outfit, my uniform, and I was going to go back to that airport and New York. And just as I was getting my coat off and stuff, Fred Rogers came through the door. He said, "France, what happened? I heard that there was something happened. There's an altercation." And I said, "Fred, it was terrible. All I did was
What,
stand."
Fred Rogers? He was not part of the audience to the altercation when it happened. Okay, so
So
continue,
he
please.
came later. And
Yeah.
when he came right to my dressing room because David Newell and Lady Avril, everybody was telling him what had happened, how humiliating it was. Because I always started the programs. That was my role and the songs that I sang. So we all went trooping back upstairs. I did not want to go. I wanted to go up there with a pistol and shoot that conductor. And when Fred walked into the auditorium on stage, the instrumentalists began to applaud. Oh, they just applaud. And Fred just stood there. And then he walked over to the conductor. And the conductor was trying to hug him. And Fred said, he was holding him back, said, "Just a minute. We have something to discuss. I understand you said something to this gentleman. This is Officer Clemmons. He's a part of our family. I'm not sure what you said, but it hurt him very much. We don't talk to him that way. That was what I stuck in my head, Fred said. We don't talk to him that way. What's the problem? He belongs to our ensemble. He comes up to sing, to rehearse. We always do it like that. Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle. What's the problem? Oh, I didn't realize who he was. I didn't know. He said, but you didn't even ask. Now, you must apologize to Officer Clemmons, or we are all going to pack up and go home. Wow. And the whole orchestra, everybody's quiet. And he finally looked at me and said, I'm sorry. I'm terrible. I did a terrible thing. And I didn't want to, I wanted to hit him. I was ready to fight. That was my hot temper. And he went on, he said some dumb words that had no meaning, but he knew that he had effed up, use the phrase. And that if he did not apologize to me, his program was going to be, and it was getting ready to schedule to rehearse and then do the performance. And sure enough, he said a few things. And then the hardest part, Fred looked at me and put his arm around me and said, France, now you must tell him that you accept his apology. Oh, it was the hardest thing, but I said, I accept your apology. And Fred said, okay. Wow. And there will be no more of that. He was not kidding, that conductor. Fred let him know that if he said anything inappropriate, we were going to go home. So sure enough, I had to practice with the orchestra. And I was, emotionally, I was a mess.
Yeah.
But I could sing the songs and all that stuff. So sure enough, I did all that, and the performance went okay. But I went downstairs, and after it was over, I didn't want to talk to the conductor. You know how they all get together, they shake hands, say, congratulations, what a wonderful job. And I went downstairs to my dressing room. I was getting dressed so that I could come upstairs and get in the limousine and go back to the hotel. Yeah. And Fred came in and said, France, someone wants to congratulate you. And you must accept the congratulations. And how humbly we've had an experience here. Sure enough, in walks that conductor. And he said to me, what a terrible mistake I've made. I'll never treat anybody else like that again. I'm really sorry for the pain that I caused you. And this time, I think he was contrite, that he really understood who we were, who I was. And that the way that he had spoken to me was not acceptable. And it wasn't just Fred. I would not tolerate that. I would not. So we went home. We talked about it later on. And it was not one of the best experiences on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
I'm sure, Francois, but it's a incredible story of how to take the high road. You are well within your right to walk away and say, no, I'm not doing this. The whole orchestra there, and they were just waiting for you to come in and be the final piece of the puzzle. But you could have just said, no, F this, I'm out. you know?
This indeed. That's how I felt. I was so angry. And I was angry because it was humiliating in the front. I mean, everybody was present. They all heard it. They were shocked too. Shocked. And later on, they told us that how shocked they were. And I don't know if he stayed as the conductor of the Cincinnati Orchestra, but we, of course, never worked with him again. But that was a bad experience. Some good ones.
Yes.
One of them, I didn't talk about as much here, but I'm going to talk about the next. What?
I just wanted to big shout out to Erwin for tuning in and commenting and saying he's loving the conversation. Thank you, Francois.
Thank you, Erwin.
Everybody.
Thank you, Erwin. So, all right. One of the good things that happened I was out in California doing Porgy and Bess. And it's George Gershwin's opera. And it's really what you call bread and meat and butter, meat and potatoes for Black opera singers. You must learn some of it. They do it all the time. But a lot of times, it's the only job you can get. And so there were one or two wonderful singers at the Metropolitan Opera, George Shirley, Leon T. Price, what have you. But the rest of us never did. So I learned Porgy and Bess while I was still living in Pittsburgh. And when I got to New York, I did some auditions. I got into a company, and we were out in California. And someone called me and said, Francois, you must get back here to New York because Lauren Mazel of the Cleveland Orchestra is having auditions. They're going to do Porgy and Bess, and you would be wonderful on that recording. And I thought, well, I wasn't getting any more jobs out in California. I was auditioning and talking to people, and I got a couple of nibbles. So I said, okay, I'm going to close down the shop, flew back to New York, called them up, made an appointment, and I went into this wonderful concert hall in Manhattan on 57th Street. And it was the guy who was running it came to me and said, okay, would you please come in so that you can sing for Maestro Lauren Mazel. And I walked in. Oh, Lord, there's a boat that's leaving soon for New York. Come with me. That's where we belong. Sister, you and me can live that high life in New York. Come with me. There you can't go wrong, sister. I'll buy you the swellest mansion up on Upper Fifth Avenue. And through Harlem we'll go strutting, we'll go a-strutting, and there'll be nothing too good for you. I'll dress you in silks and satins, in the latest Paris styles, and the blues you'll be forgetting, there'll be no fretting, just nothing but smiles. Come along with me, Bess, that's the place. Don't be a fool, come along. Come along. There's a boat that's leaving soon for New York. Come with me. That's where we belong. Sister, that's where we belong.
Amazing. That's where we belong. I love it. Oh, Francois. Oh, that's such a beautiful song.
Thank you. Just give me 1 second to turn this off. Oh, I apologize.
We love your stones. We love your. So, what color is that? That's not pink. That's not.
What I have on is turquoise.
What you wearing? Oh, no, I love the turquoise, but the garment, the shirt. What
I had it made. I went to a store in Manhattan, and I liked the material.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought like 3 yards, and I came back and I had a lady make this. It's a shirt, but I have others. I have pants of the same. I don't have them on today, but I have pants to match, shirt and pants, and also a jacket I can throw on. All of them have the same color. But
Okay.
I stopped buying stuff in the stores because they didn't have enough imagination and color for men. And so I wanted colorful stuff to wear. And so I began to, when I was in Torino, Rome, down in Naples and Sicily, they have these shops where they sell material, and it's silk, and it's beautiful. And I talked to some of the other members, and they said, oh, you should get that if you like it so much. So I bought the first time 4 yards, and I brought the material home. And eventually I talked to this lady, and they said, well, we know somebody who does smoking jackets. That's what they call them. So I said, okay, let's try that. So they made a jacket, and it's back there in the closet, and I put it on. When I got to Cleveland and I was doing Porgy and Bess, that conductor said, you look wonderful. I want you to wear that on stage. And I said, really? He said, yes, because something happens to you when you get dressed up. And it's not the same as when you wear the tuxedo and the tails. I shout out, oh, I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. So that's
Incredible.
the experience that I had putting stuff like this together.
One more time for somebody who's color eyed like me. What color is that? Is the shirt?
Fuchsia, Fuscia. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure Fuscia.
Hey, all
Fuchsia.
right, all right, all right. Okay. On in concluding our conversation, Francois, I want to ask you, um, what would you like your legacy to be? You know,
Mm.
this is it's an interesting question, but I want to just say, verbally, how would you express, how would you respond to that? You know.
Well, to tell you the truth, I've thought about it because it's a surprise. My legacy, I want people to remember me when I came to Middlebury College and I was Francois Clemmons and I loved them. I had very special experiences with my cosmic children, and you are one. I very much wanted children, and with doing the circumstances, I didn't think I ever would. So God sent me some young men and young women who just needed unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
And when I didn't quite understand, but my heart opened up when they would ask me, can we come over to your house? And I would cook and we would talk. And after a while, I was doing it quite a bit. Like Sunday afternoon after church, everybody would come by for bacon and pancakes or, and eggs. I'd have fruit and juice. I was doing that on my own. Something deep inside of me was being fulfilled. None of the other things had fulfilled. And so I learned how important it was for me to pass on the unconditional love that Fred Rogers had given to me. So I began to be open. And over the years, I have 600 cosmic children. And that's what I call them. I said, God sent you because on some level, you needed exactly what I had to offer. And I was very, very willing to just be there for those people. Some, their parents died while they were at Middlebury College, or their parents got divorced, or they moved, or they didn't like the child because they were gay. I had several of my cosmic children who were gay who came to me and they stayed with me and I took care of them. And, time and again, several of my students said to me, Mr. Clemmons, Professor Clemmons, Dr. Clemmons, Diva Man, why
Mm-hmm.
do you do this? What are you doing this for? And I said, this is what daddies do. At this time in your life, you need a father, and I'm
Yeah.
here. And so I continued to do that until I retired officially in 2015. But my house is still a destination. They
Yeah.
show up here, they call, tell me they're coming. Sometimes they don't call, like certain people, and they show up, and I'm supposed to take time. Well, there's a deep, deep love that developed. I needed that human exchange of being able to show care. So I could sing. And I tell you, I would put together choruses singing spirituals, as many as 65, 75. One year we had 100 people up there on stage singing American Negro spirituals. And I felt my heart open and I gave myself. And that's the legacy that Dr. Clemmons loved me.
Oh, Francois, lovely, amazing, amazing. I just one more time want to just express my sincere gratitude and just say, thank you so much for letting us spend this time with you this morning, and or this Friday, and also just learn a lot more about you and everything that you stand for. So I'm really, really appreciative for that. And I want to just say, yeah, I love you. I love you. I love you.
I love you too, buddy. You believe me, I love you. I'm so happy to be with you, spend time with you, and to see what you're doing, and for you to know how much I appreciate it and I love it. Congratulations. Keep up the hard work. Call on me anytime you want, and I'll have another outfit and I'll come and be with you.
Hey, inspirations and Liam, wonderful job facilitating. Thank you, thank you, Brooke. And yeah, I mean, it's 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 um it's fascinating. I know you have like the other writing projects that you have going on, and also your local engagements at the local church, for example.
Yes,
You're
yes,
an active member, and
yes.
yeah, is there anything else that you want to share with us about
Well,
what
on
you're?
Sunday, I'm at Middlebury College at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's a service they're having for Black History Month, and I will be officiating. So I'll be singing some songs and talking to them about my experiences with Maya Angelou, with Dr. King. All that's a part of the service. So I will be there Sunday at 10 a.m. if anybody can show up. It's Middlebury College, the chapel.
At the chapel. Francois, I just gotta ask for one more song. One
What?
more, please. And then the show will be done.
I've been in the storm so long. I've been in the storm so long, chilling. I've been in the storm so long. Lord, give me a little time to pray. Now, when I get to heaven, gonna take my seat. Lord, give me a little time to pray. That's all my crown to my Savior's feet. Lord, give me a little time to pray. I've been in the storm so long. I've been in the storm so long, chilling. I've been in the storm so long. Lord, give me a little time to pray.
Woo-wee! Thank you again. I've been in the storm so long.
Amen. I have.
Amen. Amen. Halate says, hey, I'm late. I think you guys should be invited to this. I love Black people show and sing for us. Nice voice. Halate Busman all the way in Botswana.
In
Thank you.
Botswana?
Yes,
Oh, wonderful.
that is where Halate is. And yeah, thank you so much one more time, Francois. Yeah, until next time, we'll
Until
talk.
next time, I'm available. Thank you so much. And keep sending me links and stuff so I can watch you.
Hallelujah. We'll do
All
that.
right.
Ooh. Wow, 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 wow. Halati, you gotta go back to the beginning of the show and just check this story out. It's so inspirational, so motivational, and so many different things you can draw from it. I think like we can learn from just different experiences that Francois had. It doesn't even matter if you're. It's not even about being Black. It's not even about being gay or anything like that. It's just more about knowing that we all have the capability to share love and show love, and it costs nothing. The unconditional love that Fred Rogers we heard about, the love that Francois has been giving, and that's part of a big part of his legacy, and also the fact that it's Black History Month, and you gotta channel the best version of yourself. You gotta stand up and be like, dream like Martin, inspire like Obama, think like Garvey, write like Maya, fight like Malcolm, lead like Harriet, speak like Frederick, solve conflicts like Fred Rogers, sing like Francois. Oh man, I could keep going. But don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And yeah, the show is the Football Power Hour. It's that episode where we just do something that's not specifically football related, but it's just because life